Thank you for joining us on our journey through the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Infinity Saga. Starting with Iron Man and ending with Spider-Man Far From Home, this podcast will contain spoilers for any of the films in the saga. This is your one and only spoiler warning for all of those films. Our goal is to discuss the plot of the movie we're currently watching, but it's almost impossible to talk about these great movies without bringing up what makes the others so great. Consider this your one and only spoiler warning for any of the movies in MCU's Infinity Saga. If you have any desire to see those movies, which you should, they're amazing, before hearing of the opinions of two regular Dans in their 30s and 40s, leave now and go watch them. They're great. Then come back here and listen to our take, because we have a lot of great and interesting takes. This is also your one and only adult content warning. This podcast will contain mature language and adult situations. Our goal is never to offend or alienate. We believe that there can be comedy in everything, and everything should be discussed with an open mind. So please take anything we say with a grain of salt. Thanks for listening.
Going live.
Going live.
This is a test. I'm testing.
Oh, hey, test one,
Hello,
test two,
test.
test
Test 4, test 5.
test lickle.
Test what? How's it going, Dan?
It's going great, Dan.
That's good. I hope you're doing well.
You know, I'm doing as well as I can in this house forever.
It's summertime, but boy, are we trapped inside.
Yeah, through the windows I could see the sunlight.
It's gone now.
The weather's nice.
It is. It's a hot summer, but
Summer in the city. Back of my neck. Wait. Can't monetize this.
Oh,
See ya.
yeah, we're going to get hit with a DMCA slap using their music. Well, hey, this is Discussing Dance. It's entertainment in you. It's how pop culture shapes your world. Our mission statement is to keep a vague and open dialogue about how science fiction has affected pop culture as viewed through the eyes of two Dans in their 30s and 40s. No topic is too off topic, and no opinion is wrong. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
That's correct. It's written down here, so it must be right.
It's our policy.
We stand by it. Today we're talking about Doctor Strange, which is
That's right.
14th movie in our Infinity Saga, and this one was directed by Scott Derrickson. And I know I told you earlier I was listening to our Guardians of the Galaxy podcast, and I didn't name the year and I didn't name the director, so I'm gonna do it now. Guardians of the Galaxy came out in 2014, directed by James Gunn.
Yeah, that's accurate.
But
this is 2016.
This is 2016. This is Doctor Strange, and yeah, it was I liked it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely liked it. It's
classic Iron Man formula, kinda.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of, like, you know, egotistical, fallen from grace types.
Right, but without the so much of a technology overlay, but a magic overlay.
Magic, and the guy wasn't an engineering genius, but a medical and neurosurgery genius.
Correct, and he has a photographic memory.
Yeah, which was really cool. And an early catch, isn't that the same guy who played Jyn Erso's dad in?
Yes, that is accurate.
Rogue One.
His name is Mads Mikkelsen. And he plays Caecilius in this, which is fantastic. I think he has a ton of movies in which he is a determined, hard life having Viking, determined, hard life having wizard, a determined, hard life having. I mean, he just looks like a very determined person.
Hard life having person.
I think he has lots of movies in which he has gone through it. He's a very dramatic actor for sure.
Yeah, he was well cast, definitely well cast in this movie as a disciple that refuses, or
right, the one who falls from the path.
Yeah,
and succumbs to the temptation of the dark dimension.
Yes. And he decides that his teacher is a hypocrite, and I think it's his first line in the movie actually is hypocrite.
Right. Much like Mordo, right. And that is a complicated truth of the Ancient One.
Played by Tilda Swinton.
Right.
Also well cast.
interesting in the follow-up movies to maybe express. I bet you they'll just avoid it completely, but I mean, if the Ancient One had to use the Dark Dimension energy to sustain her life for centuries because she never found somebody like Doctor Strange yet, or there was never a replacement equivalent for her,
Yeah.
or and why was that? Is it because so it's interesting? Is that the case, or is it more selfish and like drawing the ire from her former students, Caecilius and Mordo? They feel that she never told us about her ability to use the Dark Dimension to draw.
Yeah, she did do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She was, and I think after seeing. Go ahead. Sorry.
I wonder how Doctor Strange is going to do that in the second movie. Whether he's just going to be, I'm fine without the Dark Dimension stuff, and I can do it on myself, and I don't know why the Ancient One couldn't, or is he going to be, it's just required.
That's
if you're
a good
going
question.
to need to wrangle up Odin and Thor, you're going to need a little extra oomph.
Yeah. Well, I think after having seen the entire MCU and then coming back and watching this and knowing that she speaks to Banner in Endgame after he travels back in time saying, oh, well, Doctor Strange isn't going to be along for about another 5 years or so. I think she was maybe, and I'm literally just thinking this as we were talking the last 3 minutes, maybe she was pulling from the Dark Dimension because she knew that she had to stay alive long enough for the real Sorcerer Supreme, not the real Sorcerer Supreme, but the next one, who is Doctor Strange, who might, like you said, have a better way to maintain omniscience and not pull from the Dark Dimension.
That might be true. That might be true. Like, that would be interesting. That would be a nice thing if, like, she knew that she wasn't, doing it the way that she'd like, but, if she could endlessly peer into time, then she might have just watched billions of futures until she saw the future of the Earth succeed instead of fail. And it being pivotal on this Doctor Strange, which it's plausible. That's perfect comic book stuff. I'm interested. That's one of the reasons why I'm excited for.
Yeah,
the multiverse of madness.
Oh man, I am so excited! And
title.
Mordo is going to be. I hope they bring him back. He was killing off sorcerers at the end of this. The end of this movie.
Mordo, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm sorry how I butchered it, but Chiwetel Ejiofor.
He played Hands of Blue 2x2 in Serenity.
He played in Fire.
Yes.
What?
In Serenity, the movie.
He was in the movie. Yes, he was part of the Federation or whatever. But he wasn't Hands of Blue. He was a different kind of assassin.
Yeah, he was like their. We've tried all other diplomatic and regular means. Right. Let's send this guy in. Yeah.
Yeah, their wet works kind
of. Wet work. That's such
might be messy.
Fucked up term. for what they actually do, calling it something like wet work.
If I understand it right, it's it's going to be messy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's it's destabilizing a nation kind of shit.
Yeah. So and it's absolutely the potency that we got from that actor, and that's exactly what to go with your Mads well casting. I want to say Mordo is really well casted as well.
Oh yeah.
He's a super dramatic actor. Often also plays a very lawful character. He swears to a philosophy. Yeah, and he lives by it very boldly and uncompromisingly.
Wears whatever rules he lives under on his sleeve.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's very another determined, which I'd imagine you have to be if you're going to be a magician of any kind.
Yeah. But in the beginning of the movie, we get set up very similarly to how we did with Tony Stark. So Tony Stark's with him being egotistical in the Humvee, driving to show off some of his own arms. In this movie, we get a similar scenario where we see a Doctor Strange saving a patient from, what do they say,
Right.
blood toxicity. There was a bullet in the brain. And
Right.
It's very clear in these setup scenes that he's a surgeon that's out for the
Glory.
Yes, the glory.
Prestige.
Thank you. That's the one I was looking for. So we get, and I like how that was a cool little thing that they did in the beginning. He's the type of surgeon that when he hugged that woman that was thanking him for saving whoever, her husband's life or whoever, he leans to the side and hugs her with just one arm.
Right.
I don't know if you know. I was like, that's I feel like something a surgeon would do because cut and run.
Sure. Yeah, that's not what he's doing it for. Your emotions weren't part of it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta say though, the ridiculously fast driving down a rainy cliff curb-filled road while checking his messages and making decisions and wanting to check numbers, just ridiculous. How much he just like fuck everything,
Yep.
and was caught by this, of course, obvious situation of another car coming while he's trying to pass somebody in the rain. I mean, I understand it's like to also show arrogance, but he's a smarter person. He's not gonna I wouldn't expect his character to be willing to risk a car accident on a cliffside.
Yeah, it's pretty implausible considering what actually I mean, but
yeah, story needed to happen.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
There was an MCU tie-in catch at the beginning that I didn't catch the first time around. So the people, like you said, he's driving on the cliff recklessly in a Lamborghini, and the guy's giving him challenges, essentially. One of the challenges is a 34-year-old, where is it? A 34-year-old Air Force colonel who was injured in experimental armor.
Which probably the twist.
That's Rhodes. That's Rhodes. Good. A 34-year-old Air Force colonel. That's awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's definitely Rhodes.
And does he pass on it, or is that the one that
he passes? Him? Yeah, he says, "No, I don't want to do. That's not my." I think the one he says is interesting is something about a implant to control schizophrenia. It's struck by lightning, and he's like, "Ooh, that is interesting." And that's pretty much when he gets into his accident. Yeah.
Never pass on roads.
Yeah. Never pass on roads. That's right.
That's the lesson there.
Hey, that's a double entendre because he was passing somebody on a road too. So never pass on roads.
That's a good call. That's a great observation. Where the talent lies.
When hashtag never pass on roads starts becoming popular, where you heard it first.
It's gonna be huge. Oh, but man, when they show him the work that was done to his hands, it looked like his bones were turned into like, brittle. And then they had attached the brittle with spikes.
Yeah.
And put it into a hand shape.
Let me hold your confetti bones together with some solid iron spikes. Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, he opened that shot where he opens his eyes and they just show his hands and all that scaffolding. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's rough. But then he turns on his full-on super dickhead attitude for the next.
This is your fault. You were driving. I wasn't driving.
Yeah, he just blames everybody, and this is the part where you apologize. This is the part you leave.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh man, this guy just burned everything. He already was like out of money, and he needed a couple $100,000 to a small loan. Who considers $200,000 a small loan?
Yeah, I know.
A desperate man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he kicks his girlfriend out, and then during his physical therapy, I did like that scene between him and the other guy. They were going back and forth about how this is useless. I shouldn't bother with his physical therapy. And he's like, let me see the file on the guy. He tells him about a guy who healed him. He saw him walking years later. And yeah, I love that. He puts a Post-it note. He gives him the medical files, and there's a Post-it note in there that says, told you so.
Yeah. Yeah. If he gets to prove your arrogant ass wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
He had enough dealing with the guy because, man, he was a dick in all
Yeah.
respects.
Yeah, well, he literally fell from grace. He was the top neurosurgeon in his field, literally picking and choosing what procedures he wanted to do, and then he fucking passes a car on the road, passes roads, and ruins his life.
Yeah, never pass on roads.
Mm-mm.
But they wove this the guy who learned to walk story. Let me learn. That actor has been in around.
He's been in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt is the actor. He plays Jonathan Pangborn. Cool name.
He was the cat who had a C7 C8 complete spinal fracture basically.
Right. And he learned he took his minor miracle and left, which I dug. I mean, I could imagine if he traveled there all because he couldn't walk and he got the ability to walk. He's like, okay, I don't want to be a wizard, but I do want to play basketball.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't want to do any of that, all that war stuff you guys got going on with Dormammu. No, I'm good. I just want to shoot hoops.
Yeah, I'll just be chill with basketball. Thanks,
it's cool that they let him go, though. I mean, most cults like that, or I'm sorry, not cults.
Cults are terrible.
No, I mean, he was saying later in the movie, remember when he's on the operating table, she's like, you look like you're part of a cult. He's like, it's not a cult.
That's exactly what it was.
He's like, I went to the top of the sanctuary. I spoke to a lot of healing men and blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, it sounds like a cult. He's like, I got to go. She's like, you can't leave right now. You need to rest. He's like, why do you need to leave? I'm late for a cult meeting. So he's definitely got that's why I loved seeing him and Tony interact in Endgame, because they're very much, and it's set up in this movie, but they're very much like the same egotistical, I'm the best kind of guy.
Which was so good in Infinity War.
Yeah, trying to get the ship back and going back and forth between him and Spider. Is he your ward or?
This man wants to steal a necklace from a wizard. What's the deal, Mr. Stark?
Yeah, that's the wizard. Go get him.
I'm on it. I love that.
He's from space. He wants to steal a necklace from a wizard. That about sums it up, Tony. Yep.
Right. Oh, you're supposed to say it, and it's so alley-oop, like you're saying. Like, it's just, the situation is so that crazy.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we're on the same page. So we we find Mr. I'm Better Than Everybody quickly humbled when he arrives in Kathmandu.
Oh, right. Yeah, he has a confrontation outside. He tries to get in, and then he gets shown his stuff, and then
don't they beat his ass, take his watch?
Right, for a watch, right. And when he decides to fight them for his watch, to keep his watch, then Mortal steps in.
Oh, that's right. Now I remember, yeah.
And then he gets the Wi-Fi password, which I remember as a prominent scene in the trailer. Yeah. What is this, my mantra?
It's Wi-Fi password. We're not savages.
Yeah, I made it all the promotional periods, but I mean, well, I appreciate that, but the handing the password on a little note, that's a little bit of a dramatic way to dish out could have just said Shambhala.
Yeah. By the way, the Wi-Fi password Shambhala.
Yeah, that's all you needed to do.
No. Well, maybe
it out paper with a fancy font.
Maybe they're also a hotel.
Yeah, maybe. They're not savages.
Floors 1 through 5 are for existential martial art and wizard training, and floors 5 through 17 are housing and apartments.
We gotta make some money sometime.
That's right.
Somehow.
But yeah, so Tilda Swinton, after he gets inside, Tilda Swinton quickly reevaluates his thoughts on reality.
Yeah, I think Tilda Swinton did a great job, though.
So good.
I learned recently that her casting as the Ancient One, somewhat of it was like an only choice, because in the comic books, the Ancient One is definitely stereotypical and very.
It was like the guy he sees first, who's like the My Fae from
stereotypical Asian.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, yeah. And so rather than trying to change that character, they just made a new character. So it's one of the most
out of the rails comic story
changes that they made, I think. Like, yeah, I mean, just they kept her position as the Sorcerer Supreme there, but they just rewrote backstory completely, which is okay because I don't think the Ancient One had much backstory other than the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Doctor Strange as the mentor passing the torch. And so he had some probably backstory that, was involved in a comic book that was resolved in Doctor Strange, whatever, the one of the earlier ones. Because, it's why he has the title Sorcerer Supreme. It's that whole rank. Anyway, rather than appeasing any race, they just changed it to a Celtic background. And
it's Celtic.
And I think that she used to be Celtic, or she was at one point Celtic. I mean, and then she became Sorcerer Supreme and was worldly. But she, that's what it.
That's the MCU's explanation.
Yeah, I think Mordo says it in this.
Oh, I think you're right. I do remember him saying Celtic, but I didn't catch.
Yeah, she's Celtic and she's very old. Is all she.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and in all honesty, the ethnicity doesn't really matter. Like you said, if it's like an Obi-Wan to the Anakin, then it really doesn't fucking matter what.
To the Luke.
Or I'm sorry, to the Luke. What'd I say? Obi-Wan to Anakin. Well, no, we don't want that. That turns out bad.
Right.
That was a good choice. I like her. She's bubbly and arrogant and smug at first, but in a fun way. And then as you go through the movie, you realize she's
softening the blow.
Yeah, and exactly. And you're like, oh well, maybe she really is bad. Maybe Caecilius had the right idea, not spreading the truth of what she's doing. But then you realize, well, she's putting rose-colored glasses on everyone's eyes for a reason.
It is interesting because if her taking on some of the dark dimension energy is any kind of suffering or frustration to her, then she just dealt with it for centuries to try to wait until somebody responsible enough, like Doctor Strange, gets that chance to be the Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah. So, I mean, anybody she could have passed it off to anybody if she wanted to.
Oh, I'm sure.
And, but she was probably waiting for the right one.
I wonder if in the MCU, well, like after she became Sorcerer Supreme, I wonder if then she came across the Time Stone and used it to peer through time and see, what the fuck is up.
That is a good question as to when they became in possession of the Time Stone, and why is it called the Eye of Agamotto? There's probably a good answer.
If she's Celtic, why is it called the Eye of Agamotto?
Well, she became in possession of
that's right. They just have it.
Yeah, it was a person named Agamotto who made the device that contains it, I think, because.
Oh, I thought it was his eye. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I think maybe it was just the Power Stone that when you touch it, you are challenged by being in possession of a Infinity Stone. Maybe other stones are fine without.
It's actually crazy. Editing Guardians of the Galaxy this morning, you actually make that same mention because when the Collector's assistant grabs the Power Stone, she just fucking explodes. And when he's explaining the old ancient ones that tried to use it, they all explode.
Right. So it might just be a risk of the Power Stone.
It's a quality check on the Power Stone's part.
Right. But I could see anybody in a possession of a stone being challenged by it to determine if you're worthy. If you're not a person of great ability and responsibility, then no, you can't control everybody's mind, or all of space or all of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what the Eye of Agamotto does, is it allows a user to use and perform the functions of the Time Stone, but they don't have to actually be in physical possession of it and hold it in their hand. If they hold it in their, that's what my guess was.
I gotcha. So instead of them taking the risk, so they're still able to use whatever power it possesses, but they don't have to physically touch it and incur any.
That was my guess. That's my guess.
Makes sense.
You know, I imagine if you were to actually just hold, this is my head, when you hold any of the stones, there's a moment in which when you're physically touching it that like it challenges you. You're like, oh my God. And you have to overcome in whatever way it challenges you. And if it accepts you, then you get its ability. And if it doesn't accept you, you probably turn into a husk of some kind. You don't live.
Yeah.
That was my understanding of them because of the Power Stone. And I was shocked or surprised when or I was confused is probably a better word, when Thanos plucked the Mind Stone from Vision's head, and he only felt the surge of power when he put it into the gauntlet, when he was holding it in his other hand.
Well, he had the same thing when he destroyed the Tesseract too. He crushed that in his palm and just picks up the gem. I
totally agree.
Yeah,
which confuses me.
Well, that makes your theory check out though, because if
it's only the Power Stone that makes that instant check. Is that what you're saying? That my theory holds out?
That your theory that every stone will make a check, and if it determines, because you said they're sentient, and if it determines,
they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm just like thinking of this as we're talking right now, but I feel like, because there was the moment when Thanos rips the Power Stone off of the gauntlet to punch Captain Marvel.
Totally. But he doesn't necessarily get a re-challenge. I guess he just kind of actually, it wasn't nothing, I don't think.
No, it wasn't nothing. It definitely hurt him, but he also was able to use its energy just holding it in his fist. So I think it's a matter of, like you said, it's a check. And Thanos just happens to be a powerful enough being.
Absolutely, yeah. He could, he's probably used to that check.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why Hulk was able to get burned and get his arm into a sling, whereas Thanos could go Rah! And be fine, and Tony just outright dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Thanos is clearly a different form of power. But anyway, Doctor Strange is such a good movie.
It is. Entering the phase of, getting in a groove of learning the magic and reading the books from the library that he's being trained in. I liked how he planted the seed about Beyonce and the new protector of the books, which he very openly explains that, the previous guy who held this job was held down and they removed his head. Now I protect him. Yeah. So he's not worried in the least that he might get his head chopped off. That's kind of crazy.
He's like, thank you, Wong, for the books and the threat upon my life.
Yeah. But he plants the seed about the Beyonce, making him check it out later, which that's when Doctor Strange uses the sling ring to teleport books out of the library so he could finally read them.
Wong is listening to all the single ladies.
And he finally takes the book that he was reading currently, which tells me that he thought it was so clever and that he would even reveal what obviously by taking the book that he was reading currently, he's not going to forego that and forget it and be okay. He's going to go okay, what's up?
Yeah.
He's going to confront him.
Must have been the wind.
He's admitting it, but being with a flourish because of how creative it was. I think that's the kind of friendly relationship Wong and Strange have, which I like.
Yeah. Even just the beginnings of Strange being a sarcastic guy. Usually people laugh when I tell jokes like that, and Wong's like, did they work for you? And he's like, okay, well, thank you very much for the books and the threat upon my life.
Speaking of Wong, he's played by Benedict Wong.
Really?
And that guy is British. Very British. He has a natural British accent.
Cool.
But I just think that's such an odd...
And his name is Benedict. The main character's name is Benedict.
Bad. It's odd that we have two Benedicts on this set.
In one movie. Like, okay, Benedict to set, Benedict to one.
Which Benedict?
Yeah, exactly. There's both of us in this scene. You guys got to be more specific. Like, okay, Wong and Benedict. Like, whoa. You can't call him by his character name.
Are you talking about my first name or last name?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we go by Doctor Strange and Wong? All right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I can imagine that being an Abbott and Costello type of conversation.
Yeah. Who's on first?
I gotta say this. This is another thought I had during it several times during the movie. It seems like the ultimate power focusing on time. The book is a focusing on time.
I don't know if the book focuses on time.
It did mention that. It did. Wong mentioned it later. Wong mentions it when Strange was curious about it and asked him about it. He's like, "Yeah, pages were recently stolen," but he introduced it as a book that was focused on time. Which is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
And but he only took a couple pages out of it, and it was a dark dimension spell is basically all we know. But what we see the effects of it is that you can, like, I don't know, alter the shape of your terrain, because like architecture and stuff starts all molding.
Yeah, really cool visual effects.
Right, really cool visual effects. But the advantage is that you.
And I'm trying to. I'm like,
your hallways are twisted. You can also shift gravity, which is something that Ancient One did against the initial attack.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's weird. I don't understand the power at all.
No, yeah, in terms of explanation, it really doesn't make sense, like you said. If he's stealing a page out of a book that deals with manipulating time and using dark energy to do that,
well, it was
how do you get twisty
study
hallways?
Of time.
Well, even still,
yeah.
How do you get twisty hallways?
Have to do with time at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but they mention multiple times that, and Mordo even scoffs and gets scared when he says he's able to manipulate matter in the physical realm. Like, so what they're able to do in the mirror dimension, they're obviously not able to do outside of that unless you read said page from said book. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a sorcerer, I guess, but you understand it makes sense to these guys.
Look, I'm no sorcerer, but this doesn't check out.
Right?
The math just doesn't check out here.
It's a mystery to me still, but I've watched the movie at least 3 times, and I enjoy it every time. I don't understand why Twisty Hallways is such a strong ability, but it makes for really cool movie effects.
Oh, it really does. Yeah, it's trippy as hell.
And that's another thing that Doctor Strange in the comics are about. Like, Doctor Strange in the comics was all about, like, he's currently stuck between the metaphysical existence of his mother and reality.
Fuck?
And that's he's got to get out of that realm. You know what? It's so fucking trippy. But it's like
what realm is he in? Don't worry about it. He's protecting you from it. Okay, get out of there. Yeah. I guess it's dangerous.
Yeah. It's really dangerous. He's gonna run up a lot of stairs.
A lot of MC Escher-esque stairs.
Yeah. It made for exciting comics, and it makes for an exciting movie.
Yeah.
I am curious also about the geometric shapes that happen when they make shield or weapon spells. Like if the
square, circle,
would make
diamond,
fans. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that's all about.
Looks cool.
It makes for a cool effect, but I have no understanding why magic would look like that. I guess shapes are better than just nothing, like no shapes, but
it's better than like moons and stars.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That's what I'm saying. It's keeping it in that mystical area in my head, but it's not like if it had moons and stars, I'd be upset because they'd be dumbing it down. But because it has just like geometric shapes, I would say are like the easiest shapes for things to take.
Yeah.
So like I like how the Ancient One introduces spells. If the word spells doesn't work for you, we can use the word program.
Yeah.
We are telling reality what to do right now.
Source code manipulators.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I like the analogy that they make for magic in the MCU. I think it grounds even magic in
reality of the MCU.
Yeah,
well, even in the reality of the 21st century. thinking
Sure,
about
agreed.
a spell as a program that can manipulate reality rather than
Right.
woo
It's
whoop-de-doop-de magic.
It's less sparkles, stars, and moons. Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Less sparkle, stars, and moons. Yeah, I mean, I was really happy when I saw this the first time around. I'm happy the second, third time watching it through.
Each time we do a podcast, we learn new ways to appreciate these movies.
Should watch them more.
I've been watching MCU movies more and more. I love this. This is great stuff, everybody. Doctor Strange advances, and so much so that Mordo and Wong take him into the what do they call the mystical chambers?
I don't remember, but it's time to reveal the secrets.
Right, yeah, and they consider him like more of an equal at this point, right? And
They
which
constantly say he has an aptitude or a
I think
you know the word I'm looking for.
An extreme enormous strength. I imagine any magician who had a photographic memory. I'm just saying, like in D&D, when you're a wizard, you have to prepare your spells because that means like at night you gotta read these spells so they're fresh in your memory, so that when you are in battle and you want to cast a spell, you can just recite it the right way. But because you have a photographic memory, you'd never have to just struggle to recall the ritual, the spell, the words, the thought process that you got to do, whatever it is that you do to cast magic.
Yeah.
He remembers it perfectly whenever he wants.
Yeah.
Always.
And
so I can see how that puts a wizard above and beyond most other wizards.
He even says that's how he got his PhD and his MD at the same time.
Exactly. It's his ability is the ability to learn really well.
I was going to say, if anything, that's his superpower.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, and I can imagine the other magicians who are normal people feeling pretty upset that this guy who, he just has the ability to remember everything just by reading it. That's cool. I wish I had that,
Like a super jealous Merlin looking at him like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. I've been working for 50 years to get this good, and you are there at the gate. Your mental labyrinth is a ironclad mansion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've never been able to picture anything perfectly from memory.
I came up with the term mental palace from Sherlock. If you've watched that's also Benedict
Cumberbatch. Nice.
As a smart guy. But absolutely. And in this one, they reference his place as 177 Bleecker Street, which I don't remember the Sherlock address.
It's close.
But it's very close, right? It's another famous, probably English address that Benedict Cumberbatch, fantastically exists in. It's a pretty big legacy that Benedict Cumberbatch is.
Several legacies.
Yeah, Strange, Sherlock Holmes, Smog,
Baker Street.
Yeah,
but he lives on 221B Baker Street, and here he lives on 771B Bleecker Street.
Right. What? That is so weird, right?
That is really cool. I had to look up Dr. Strange's address real quick. Just so I know for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and I love the relic that chooses him.
Oh, no, 177A.
Yeah,
sorry.
That sounds right.
Oh, yeah, he gets chosen by the cloak of levitation.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's so
such
cute.
Exactly, it's cute, but voiceless, but loyal.
Very loyal. Tries to get him to grab. He's like going for the axe, and it's trying to pull him towards the. It's like, no, get this silly device that's on the wall.
I think it was it Mordo who reacts to when they see that he is draped in it.
The Sorcerer Supreme, Tilda Swinton.
Oh yeah. She's impressed. I like it.
Yeah.
Like any fantastical magic. Me being Dan Fantastical, I know this about fantastical relics that you need to have It seems that relics that choose people are somehow omniscient to where they're aware of your backstory and how you being a relic would be a great tool to have this person employ the rest of their story to embellish and how to expunge the hurt in your past or whatever,
Yeah.
I imagine that's what choosing you. It's a judge of character.
It's like
They're judging your character, they're omniscient.
Yeah, like when a wand chooses its wizard in Harry Potter.
Ooh.
Boom, boom, boom. Another magical wizard reference.
Harry Potter is pretty good, because he wasn't the only wand maker, but he was, I don't remember his name because this isn't a Harry Potter.
Briskets or something like that. But go on.
But he would guess based upon what he's learned about the student applying for a wand, what might be most appropriate, hand it to him, and see the reaction. So he was a middleman, but he was probably going to shorten out the process of finding a wand that accepts a wizard. Is what I get.
The matchmaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Garrick Ollivander.
Perfect. Ollivander. Yeah, that's right. Like I said, he wasn't the only wand maker, but he was the one of note in England, I guess. But yeah, that's what he played. Is he didn't know, he couldn't say that this wand's going to work for that guy. He says that based on what what impressions, what vibes I'm getting off of this kid.
This one's good for you.
My experience is going to say that one of these 4 are going to be fine.
This one has a phoenix hair in it. This one would be good for you for a phoenix feather, whatever.
Because you're pissed at your parents or whatever. You know what I mean? There's reasons he knows because of his experience.
Because of your Oedipal complex.
Well, no, yeah, but because of how weird you are, kid, you're going to get the platypus wing wand.
Speaking of weird stuff, when they're fighting, before he gets chosen by the relic, the cloak of levitation, he gets smashed through a bunch of other relics, and he, while fighting Caecilius, because again, he's a doctor, he doesn't know what he's doing. He grabs that chalice or something. He grabs like a glowing goblet, and he like threateningly points it towards Caecilius, and Caecilius does get scared for like half a second. He's like, oh shit, and then when nothing happens.
Do you even know what that does?
He's like, and then just throws it at him. That part was great.
Yeah, it's an important aspect of a relic, is you got to know its history and what it does.
Yeah. Before that, when he says stop, he tries to stop Caecilius from killing the New York sanctum protector, and Caecilius is like, he's like, Doctor.
Oh,
Mr. Doctor. He's like, strange.
It is strange,
but
yeah, he says it's strange, right?
He's like, it is, but I don't judge.
It was so good, so good.
I
mean, Madsen, the actor, what is the character's name? Caecilius. He didn't understand a word of what Doctor Strange said. Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Doctor.
It's strange. Doctor's trying to correct him.
Yeah, trying to say it's Doctor Strange.
He misunderstands the correction as a reflection.
Yeah.
And he goes, maybe, like.
He's like, but I'm not one to judge.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes to show he didn't understand a word that Doctor Strange said. It's great.
Yeah, first of all, it's Dr. Stephen Strange.
Yeah, right? That would have clarified it, but he didn't.
No, he didn't. He just said, it's strange.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. These two actors, I mean, well cast, 100%. One of the interesting things, I think the MCU producers wanted Joaquin Phoenix.
Huh.
And I think Joaquin Phoenix turned him down.
I'm kind of glad he did. I couldn't picture him as a Doctor Strange.
He wouldn't have done this role this well.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he would have done it darker, but definitely not as plucky.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. It's not going to be as plucky. He's too much more he wants more seriousness out of his scripts.
Yeah.
which I dig. But man, the weird imprisonment vest.
BDSM vest.
I didn't think about it
That's
that
how
way.
that's immediately how I was like, oh, this is this is borderline torture pleasure device.
Yeah. Notice that his rear is wide open.
Oh, wide open. Mouth and rear wide open.
At waist level.
Mhm.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But what a convenient vest to have hanging on your wall. I guess they weren't. Yeah, so he gets to learn a little bit more about his enemy here, and his belief system that so the enemy Caecilius feels that eternal life waits as long as we all succumb to the dark dimension, and that's what he wants to bring to the rest of Earth.
Yeah, he says
is
time
eternal life.
time is the true enemy of us all.
Because time will bring death and change, and we can get away from time by all of us being subjected to the dark dimension.
Yes. Sounds great.
Yeah, right. But Caecilius, perfect role for it. You know, the fallen student that our hero protagonist needs to grapple with in order to retain sanity.
Yeah.
And control from chaos. Yeah, and so this
is the part you kind of took issue with after he defeats, well, quote unquote defeats Caecilius, he gets stabbed by one of his cronies,
and then he was able to retreat or escape into the hospital with his former girlfriend,
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams, that is correct. Dr. Christine Palmer. She was given a role without much depth, but played it well. Her character is just all about Doctor Strange forever for some reason. But I mean, I don't understand how anybody who was a dick for that long could retain any kind of forgiveness.
Yeah, and then coming back after X months, being disappearing across the other side of the world. Yeah.
It's crazy her willingness
loyalty.
to jump back into this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But movie needs to happen, and I understand it. She plays it well. I did like the astral fight. I thought that was an interesting way to take it. But generally, like you were saying, what I brought up, I took issue with, was that it seemed at this point when I was watching the movie and seeing Doctor Strange return to the hospital in which he was so famous at for the second. No, this is the first time. But yeah, it's the first time because later he comes back.
Yeah, he comes back with the Sorcerer
one.
Supreme. Yeah,
right. He comes back, and I don't know. I was trying to find out how this leaning on your former life for protection, for healing, for a safe space related to what the story is trying to tell. And I realized I'm not sure what this movie is about in total. I mean, other than, like the Iron Man story of a guy becoming, an asshole becoming not an asshole and gaining lots more abilities. This movie is nonstop action-packed, shifting to a new thing. And now they're fighting in the astral plane, probably something that he hadn't trained in. There's no settle down footing to understand who you are, I guess, or who your protagonist is, and it's just a rush of advancing.
Like no time to reflect.
Right, exactly. There's zero reflection. It's just, okay, now this is an emergency. Okay, now this is an emergency. Okay, now this is an emergency.
Yeah,
which is very exciting.
It is totally. There's so the South Park creators have a way that they tell stories, and it doesn't matter what they're doing, what gaps they're bridging, whatever, but they'll say, okay, so this happened, which then caused this to happen, and if that happened, that would then cause this to happen, as opposed to something like this movie where it's like, this happens, okay, then this happens, then this happens. It's like you need something, a cause and effect for each of those things to happen, as opposed to just saying it's happening. And this, I see what you're saying. This movie doesn't necessarily follow that formula to the letter, but there's no reason for him to come back to his old life and rekindle whatever this was when they didn't flesh it out in any way, shape, or form after this.
Is there no... I mean, I would imagine that Doctor Strange would be the most knowledgeable about healing spells, how to fix stab wounds. You know?
He hasn't
You know
gotten
what I
that
mean?
far yet.
Well, I'm guessing he wouldn't be knowledgeable about it because he wanted to fix his hands. That's what his whole purpose was, is he wanted to heal his hands and be able to get his natural, normal hands back. And he learned how to use his hands despite their imperfection because he was shown the guy who could make a portal without a hand at all,
Yeah, he doesn't
which
even...
I thought was a great scene to include.
Yeah, that was really cool.
His hands still shake,
And he's got
I
the
don't
scars
understand.
still. Yeah.
Yeah, all he has to do is read it, and then he knows how to do it. I mean, the guy who plays basketball with a C7 to C8 total, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So he should be able to write with his hands
Or shave.
or shave.
Or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just not, not liking the whole, I guess, like, backstory or maybe some foundation with his coming back to the hospital and trying to reach out to Christine, and I don't know, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was fleshed out enough.
Yeah, his real life, the life of a doctor, it's just so small importance to him now. Another thing I'm curious about is in Doctor Strange 2 is Rachel McAdams going to be a significant part of his story, or is he going to be? I don't even remember.
I feel like
I don't
probably not, only because, I mean, I don't know.
The blip. What happened to her in the blip?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, did he even care when she was gone during the blip?
Right. I mean, his worldview is beyond a doctor's life in whatever city he was, LA or something.
New York.
Like, I've always accepted that, like, if you're in, I'm a Star Wars centric being, but if you're like, if you learn that you are force sensitive, you were gifted with a secret voice from the universe that allows you to succeed. That's the general aspect of the force, is when you need it, you can make reality happen your way a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you're given that, I can't imagine if I had that kind of universal understanding, being capable of having a grounded relationship with anybody who's not jacked into the universe like I am. And if I am jacked into the universe, or if we are jacked into the universe, to us, Western American, it would be a relation to, like, talking to God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like God saying, watch out for this, watch out for that. You know what I mean? It's like, he is watching out for you. So I think that there's a question whether you would treat any other relationship equivalent to your attachment to the universe. And
well, it's like Dr. Manhattan in
exactly.
Yeah,
once you reach a level of power above that of your average ordinary man around you,
that shit's trivial. It's not. Yeah, it
becomes One Punch Man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All that other stuff is frivolous and pointless and stupid. One punch.
So yeah, I imagine that Doctor Strange would grow beyond a earthly relationship.
Do we know? Have you seen anything? Has Rachel McAdams been cast for the new one?
I mean, I think the Disney MCU people know that the MCU fans are gonna fucking watch whatever fucking movie they put out.
True.
Promise you. Yeah. So they don't need to fucking overload us with advertisement for whatever they release. I mean, if you heard tomorrow The Eternals was released in theaters, you might not go see it, but you'll know about it, and you'll be planning on whenever it comes to Disney Plus or whenever it comes to, Rent.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, you'll want to see it. It's a movie that you'll want to see.
Oh, absolutely.
Guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they got us all in their pocket with a well-laid 25 movie series. This didn't come cheap. It cost them, I don't know, $10 billion.
Yeah, maybe more.
You know what I mean? But it's earned them many more.
It's been a fun ride, that's for sure. It's
totally
been.
And
I
Yeah,
never thought I would see comic book movies at the caliber that they are today.
No,
It's
absolutely.
insane. I mean, I forget which movie we said it, but these movies make me feel things, and they're fucking comic book movies.
No doubt, 100%. While, like I said, like I don't understand necessarily what Doctor Strange is relating to his past. I mean, other than what I've speculated, just now. I guess it's because these movies are about people in situations beyond what we can understand. It's the story they needed to tell. How do you get from a PhD who knows all about science to a sorcerer supreme who knows all about metaphysical, maybe what's its howdy-doody magic sparklies.
Mystic arts and whatnot, arcane.
So that's how they had to do it to get from here to there.
In an hour and 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, not bad. It is all condensed, and I could imagine if they did give a moment for reflection, which I could say the closest, lowest moment for reflection is when he's talking to the Ancient One.
And when she's dying.
Which I always found funny.
Like, he basically has to knock himself out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see him like fall back in slow motion. And then he talks to the Ancient One in ghost form.
Yeah.
But you could only imagine that when later that moment that she stretched eternally was over, that all the people at OR see at ER see him just
fall over,
collapse on the ground
for no reason, and then
for a second,
and then get back up.
A little sad because he just saw her his master die.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right. She's right. So she's spent a lot of time gandering through time and seeing her death in this moment. So she does know that Doctor Strange is somebody that she's going to choose and that she is happy with the decision.
Yeah.
Despite not knowing how the future lies, which is, I imagine, a surprising amount of faith from a sorcerer.
Yeah, especially somebody that's been able to see so far in the future for so long.
Yeah, based on our previous speculation, I gotta say it's because of that, maybe centuries ago, she spent a lot of time, she got the Eye of Agamotto, and she spent a lot of time, maybe a whole year, doing that fast forward thing that we saw.
Yeah. Does your friend often do that?
Right. Well, maybe she spent a whole year just checking through infinite billions of timelines, hundreds of years into the future, and maybe she saw more than half the time the world ended up dead or under Thanos or something really bad. And over only a few in the billion did she see
Doctor Strange at the helm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that theory checks out, especially if she talks the way she does in Endgame.
Totally.
To Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
That's very sad. She basically dies from what? The fall? I'm guessing Caecilius stabs her through one of his own guys, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
In doing so, she stops having control over the mirror dimension and falls and definitely fucking dies.
Which confuses me a little bit because if she's seen her death, maybe she's seen her death a bunch of times in different ways in that conflict. Maybe.
Probably.
But if she had seen her death a lot of times because she fell through this particular portal through several panes of glass, then maybe she would have chosen to fight differently.
Or fall and land somewhere else.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Prepared a little bit of flying magic or something. I don't know.
Flying magic.
But yeah.
Yeah,
it must have been, I imagine it's probably she died 1,000 ways.
Yeah.
So she had no idea which way it was coming.
She tells Doctor Strange basically what we just talked about. She's been waiting this whole moment, and she realizes that he's going to be the next guy. He says, okay, well, time to save the world. And he flies off to the third sanctum, which was supposed to be Hong Kong? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because I guess they said like the death of the Sorcerer Supreme will spread around the multiverse, and of course everybody keeps tabs on the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, but apparently they do.
Yeah,
and
of course
it spreads. Yeah, it spreads to the multiverse, which leads directly to Dormammu and Caecilius making their attack.
So cool.
luckily, because
the visual
yeah,
effects at the end of this movie are
unprecedented.
seriously
That's what
unprecedented.
exactly. That's what I noted because I watched it twice, and each time I'm like, man, I don't think there's ever been a combat sequence happening in a world that's happening
in reverse.
Backwards time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, dude gets trapped behind like a wall that's being unexploded, and
a person gets put into a fish tank that exploded.
Yep.
I also like how as the world is going backwards, Caecilius and their crew like can realize it and then shake themselves out of the backwards time travel.
Yeah. And basically act on their own time while things are going backwards.
And they must jump into Steven's time. It's crazy to imagine how you could resync your time with a particular person.
Yeah.
Or is maybe, Doctor Strange is probably...
He's probably got his
synced
own,
with reality because of the stone.
Yep.
And so I get it now. All right. And through talking it out, I get it. Yeah.
Because that part to me was especially fucked up. So they show a woman who had smashed into a brick wall. Too. This is a PG-13 movie, and the woman, so they show the circle of blood around her head absorb back into her skull, and then the body flies back into the car, and then the car goes
through the wall into the car. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. I'm glad. Yeah, in reverse, she's fine now, but fuck, that was pretty violent.
Well, but I totally agree. But I mean, look at the freaking destruction, that cloud that spread amongst the sanctum. That's the word I was looking for, the sanctum. That cloud of destruction that started spreading. Man, you could imagine it was just really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, this end scene was so great, and how they had the time go backwards to the initial point of the explosion of the sanctum.
Yeah.
And that is when time freezes, and then the conversation between Wong, Doctor Strange, and Caecilius and his crew, Wong, Caecilius, and Mordo and his crew. I gotta say, Mordo was asked to join. Doctor Strange asked him, "I can't do this without you."
Yes,
because the Ancient One said that you need Mordo's strength, and so Doctor Strange, in an expression of humility, which is now a superpower, I don't know, because it's coming from Doctor Strange, the most arrogant guy, says to Mordo, "I can't do this without you." He says, "All right, I'm in," which is a great setup for the betrayal that Mordo later feels.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done. I mean, it was a set in stone conflict between Mordo and Doctor Strange from the beginning. Mordo being, in the comics, a longtime villain of Doctor Strange. So it's really a setup of an established villain.
Yeah, and it's, a villain that you feel
is
earned.
You could understand where he's coming from.
Exactly. Yep. Because Caecilius, Caecilius felt the same way and became a villain.
Yep.
It's
well done. It's well done for how crazy in a psychedelic movie that doesn't stop moving forward.
And that first psychedelic part, like Ant-Man had that psychedelic part when he goes into the microverse or whatever, but when this came out, I was like, holy shit, I should have taken some acid before I went to see this.
Yeah, that definitely ups it up a notch.
Like the hands coming out of hands, coming out of hands, coming out of hands.
That would have taken it down a notch. That would
have taken it down a notch.
Wait a minute, I'm panicking.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it last time, but okay, so Doctor Strange, his final play to win the day over is to essentially trap Dormammu in an eternal loop. Doctor Strange can die forever, but Dormammu can never gain full control of Earth.
Which I had a thought about this. This moment could have been Doctor Strange's Groundhog Day, in which he got to infinitely test out all the spells. I'd imagine someone like Mordo potentially could have thousands of years of patience. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know. It's summarized.
I assume it was a lot longer than they make it seem in the movie.
Exactly. I'd be disappointed if Dormammu, the
infinite never have time, never dealt with time before ever.
Right.
Gets
frustrated after the 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's going to be my assumption with this whole scene was so he traps him in the time loop and Dormammu kills him infinitely. I imagine it was billions of deaths for Doctor Strange before Dormammu was like, fuck you. And it's him as the actor. It's Benedict Cumberbatch versus Benedict Cumberbatch in CGI.
No way.
Yeah, he did Dormammu.
Did he really play Dormammu?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
It should be in there.
I did not know that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Edit
that out.
The facial capture was provided by Cumberbatch, but the voice was not provided by Cumberbatch.
Oh, so he did the video capture. So I see. The face of Dormammu is based off of. You can see that he's got he's got a unique face.
Villainous face.
He's got a face with like sharp cheekbones.
Yeah.
Which leads to a dramatic face, I'll say.
Yeah. A villainous face.
Well, I mean, he's
Sinister.
Doctor Strange, so he's a hero. So you see Doctor Strange and is not a villain.
But he's also Dormammu.
Right. Which he had the consistent waves heading out from his center of his face, which ultimately represents evil.
That's true. Yeah, we all would know that waves coming out of the center of your face is the ultimate representation of pure evil.
It's not necessarily evil. It's dark. It is the dimension of dark, which isn't necessarily pitch black. I don't know. Does it mean no light? Well, you can see things, so there is some light.
It's just dark.
So
it's just a little. It's not black. It's just a little dark. There's some lights. We got some night lights in there, so you guys can see.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's most of an extreme, which I found a funny aspect.
It's most of an extreme.
Right.
That's pretty funny.
Like, dark is saying, hey, it's black. But it's not pitch black. It's not completely absent of light.
Here's a flashlight.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be fine with a flashlight.
Dormammu, we're assuming after millions of deaths, gets tired of Doctor Strange's trap and accepts Doctor Strange's bargain, which is to accept Caecilius, his crazy zealots, and leave Earth forever, which he agrees to. Which
is cool. Dormammu was a long-term villain in Doctor Strange's comics. I knew that he was a returning villain that came back all the time. But he's not much more substance than everything that we saw in the movie. So, you know.
Yeah, he's not much more than a Obadiah Stane or a
right.
Alexander Cross or any of the other nameless.
He's a whole other universe of dark.
Yeah.
And he wants to pull everybody into it.
Yep.
Whatever.
See you later, bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
We get a revealing conversation from Mordo. He said he's no longer going to walk this path, and he leaves. And we go back to Doctor Strange putting the Eye of Agamotto back.
I got this. Right? It's that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, Wong gives him a little more comedy, and says it's a good choice for him to put that down, and explains a little bit more about how it's an Infinity Stone.
Yes.
Which connect, but I want to focus more on how they did Mordo right. Mordo, he didn't play the Obi-Wan as Ancient One did, but he played a lesser scholar, another person on the road that is more experienced initially than Doctor Strange, but ultimately his phrase is, the bill comes due.
Yeah, always.
Is saying that things have to be balanced and that you can't utilize great powers without great consequences.
Yeah. Equivalent exchange.
Exactly. Which Spider-Man is, great power comes with great responsibility, which means like, hey, if you're going to wield a lot of power, you got to do that carefully. But Mordo, his phrase is, with great power comes great consequence.
Huh.
So there has to be a pay. There has to be you asked for this, now you have to pay this, which, in I think a good villainous stance, it's a phrase in which you could understand how they feel right, but based on the rest of the logic of the MCU of great power comes great responsibility, no. You can have a lot of power and serve and do a lot of good.
Yeah.
So he's misguided, but he feels he's right. I just think that's a great premise, great footing for a villain to be a true threat.
Yeah.
So I hope that they bring Mordo back in a way that suggests that he is is a threat to Doctor Strange, who we've built up as an immense power, who's capable of combating Thanos and
he stood toe to toe,
trusting his life into the end of existence and beyond in order to come back into a reality that he wants to live in. You know what I mean? Like he literally turned to ash for 5 years.
Yeah.
Until a rat fell onto a switch and brought Ant-Man back.
That's the true hero.
Right?
The rat. If it weren't for that rat, none of us would be back from the snap.
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Great ancient one.
Great
movie.
One. Very great movie. I missed our Stan Lee cameo was Stan Lee on a bus. You know what he was reading?
The Dogma?
No, he was reading a book called The Doors of Perception, which was written by. It's a really trippy book, but it's about a dude's experience on a psychedelic drug. I can't remember the name of the drug at the moment, but it wasn't shrooms or acid. No, it wasn't shrooms or acid. It was something else. But he wrote a book about his experience, and Stanley on the bus just reading. That's hilarious. Very funny, considering that when we see Stanley, both Doctor Strange and Mordo had fallen from in the mirror dimension, had fallen from an incomprehensible height, and there's cars going every which way, MC Escher style, and yada yada. So our first after credits scene is Doctor Strange promising to help Thor find Odin and return him to Asgard. This scene is in Thor Ragnarok. This exact scene. This is because remember I said I think Civil War, or maybe the movie before it was when they started adding the post-credit scenes were actual scenes from the next movie. Ragnarok didn't come out for
a long time.
Yeah, a few more years after this. Doctor Strange was 2016. Ragnarok was, I guess it was a year later. Never mind. But there were 3 movies between it and Ragnarok. Totally. There was Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and then Thor Ragnarok.
Well laid setup.
Yeah, very well laid setup. But then our final after credits scene. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. No, but I wondered how much Taika Waititi. Sorry,
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
I'm so not editing that out.
Yeah. So, but I wonder how much he had in directing that scene, or was that somebody else, and it was completed, and Taika.
Yeah, that's
incorporated into his film.
That's what I'm wondering. I wonder if it was already filmed, and they were like, "Yeah, throw this in there," or if it was, yeah.
I imagine it was already filmed, and he just added it.
Oh yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be.
That's my guess. Oh man,
I know.
And then the second scene.
Yeah, Mordo going to our guy who was
the basketball
guy who was curing his spinal fracture with magic. Mordo comes and basically just takes his magic away. Literally takes his magic away. So the guy, his arms shrivel up and he falls to the ground because his spine is broken. And yeah.
Mordo is an enemy, I'm so excited to see him reprise his role in Multiverse of Madness. But if they do use Multiverse of Madness to, I don't know, more set up Phase 4 of MCU, I'm okay with that. And then like the Doctor Strange 3 to include a dramatic Mordo, that would be
really cool. Would be also, the ultimate Mordo.
Also acceptable.
Yeah.
Right. Because Mordo is an enemy who's really strongly set up.
Well, that was Doctor Strange. Ooh, our next one is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh my gosh, I love Spider-Man.
I know. This one came out in 2017, directed by John Watts. It's the 15th movie in our Infinity Saga. So
I gotta say, I mean, I love Spider-Man 1 and 2 from the
Tobey Maguire?
Raimi saga. Yeah, Tobey Maguire. I love those, but and Anthony Garfield, I'm sorry, he never really hit me really hard. Never it was just too Sony. I don't know. But
Andrew Garfield.
But yeah,
Andrew Garfield.
What did I say?
Anthony.
Did I really?
That's okay. I'll edit it out.
That's because of my ears.
I'll edit it out.
Okay,
I won't.
but Andrew Garfield, I mean, I don't know. I like the actor, and I think he could have been a great Spider-Man. I think his physical looks perfect for Spider-Man. Like,
Oh yeah,
110%. That looks like the comic book Spider-Man, and he could have done, I think, a fantastic job if he was in the MCU. But the directors and the script for those amazing Spider-Mans were not amazing in my eyes.
agreed. They're rushed.
Not part of the MCU, thank you very much.
Nope.
So I'm really excited about Tom Holland and that take on Spider-Man. I really loved Homecoming.
Very much.
It was
very good.
a Spider-Man movie, probably not made to make you want to cry, but made me want to cry.
Yeah, so stick around for that one.
Yeah.
We'll be regaling that one next week. I'm Dan S. as in science.
And I'm Dan F. as in fictional.
And thank you for listening. Have a great day.
Boop. Boop-a-doop-bop-a-doop-boop.